Leonid Slutsky, presidential candidate of the Russian Liberal Democratic Party, said his election efforts would not threaten Mr. Putin's votes. "I will not take away the votes that belong to the Russian president," Leonid Slutsky, candidate of the Russian Liberal Democratic Party, LDPR, said on December 19, and predicted that Vladimir Putin will win big in the May election. March 2024. Mr. Slutsky said he would not urge voters to vote against Mr. Putin, adding that votes for himself and LDPR were not votes against the president. Earlier on the same day, Mr. Slutsky, 55 years old, was elected by LDPR delegates as the party's candidate to run for president next year. RIA Novosti reported that Mr. Slutsky will submit an application to run for election to the Russian Election Commission later this month. LDPR is currently the political party with the second largest number of members in Russia. This is also the party with the third and fourth most seats in the Russian Senate and House of Representatives. Mr. Slutsky is one of the senior members of the Russian delegation participating in negotiations with Ukraine immediately after the conflict in February 2022. He once described Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's peace plan as a recipe for war. President Putin, 71 years old, has announced that he will run for president as an independent candidate. The Russian presidential election is scheduled to take place on March 15 to 17 next year, with the winner being sworn in May 2024. If he wins, Mr. Putin will continue to hold power until 2030 and can still run for re-election for another 6-year term. Many major political parties in Russia are also about to choose candidates to participate in the 2024 presidential election. The Communist Party of Russia, KPRF, the second largest party in the country's parliament, said it is considering choosing candidates among its leaders. Party leader Gennady Zyuganov, 79, and former governor of the Irkutsk region Sergei Levchenko, announcing his re-election. President Putin will almost certainly win as he is supported by many Russians, helping him stay in office for another 6 years. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced on December 8 that he will run for re-election in March 2024, after veterans and soldiers attending the Hero of Russia award ceremony at the Kremlin expressed their wish for him to continue. Leader of Russia, all of us, from soldiers to friends and acquaintances, asked him to run again for president, Lieutenant Colonel Artem Joga, commander of the Sparta Battalion in the Donetsk region, told reporters after the event. Putin's current presidential term will end on May 7, 2024. If re-elected next year, he will stay in power for another 6 years and hold the position of President of Russia until the end of 2030. Mr. Putin enters next year's election in a better position than a year ago. His forces have gone from defensive to offensive almost across the entire front line in eastern and southern Ukraine, at a time when the foundation of Western support for Ukraine is becoming increasingly shaky. The Israel-Hamas conflict has also caused Western public opinion to pay less and less attention to the Ukraine issue. The Russian economy has largely adapted to Western sanctions by increasing trade with China, India and Middle Eastern countries, allowing Putin to secure Moscow's revenue stream. His confidence level is skyrocketing, said Alexander Gabuev, director of the Carnegie Russia Eurasia Center in Berlin, Germany. This is not a normal election, but just the re-election of a leader. Mr. Putin essentially only has to compete with himself, said Nikolai Petrov, an analyst at a research organization in Germany. Observers believe that the upcoming election will help the Russian president consolidate his legacy and power. President Putin, 71 years old, is currently the longest-serving Kremlin leader since Joseph Stalin.